Today, we're diving into a story that hits close to home for anyone who loves nature. Or maybe just likes to solve a good mystery. Have you ever considered what happens beneath the soil when everything suddenly goes wrong? Imagine a perfect summer morning in a vibrant garden. The sun is just warm enough, the soil is dark and rich, and everything is humming along beautifully. The cucumbers are stretching their vines, the carrots are enjoying their deep, comfortable beds, and the lettuce is crisping up nicely. But this isn't a story about a perfect day. This is a story about the moment everything stops. It happened without warning. One moment, the refreshing, life-giving flow of water was there, seeping down through the roots, carrying nutrients and promise. The next moment? Nothing. Zero flow. A sudden, terrifying silence in the circulatory system of the garden. The first few hours were confusing. The older, tougher plants, the big leafy cabbages, and the ancient rhubarb felt the change first. Their massive root systems realized the drip feed had become bone dry. Panic spread faster than any weed. You could hear the fear traveling through the soil network. The tiny root hairs of the spinach started shriveling. The brilliant shine vanished from the glossy leaves of the zucchini. They weren't just thirsty. They were facing an existential threat. They knew that if the water didn't return, air. And soon, the garden would become nothing more than a field of dried stalks. Most of the garden reacted exactly how you'd expect. Mass hysteria. The tomatoes started shouting about the sky being unfair. Pippers argued about whose fault it was. Was it the sun? Or perhaps that clumsy gardener who always over-pruned? Everybody was pointing fingers, wasting precious energy, and rapidly drying out. But in the middle of this chaos, a small, unusual group decided to handle things differently. They were a diverse bunch, too. There was Silas, the stoic sweet potato, deeply rooted and very observant. Then there was Clara, the curious little cherry tomato, small but sharp. And finally, Barry, the quiet, thoughtful beet. Silas gathered them close, deep beneath the soil, where the air was still faintly cool. Panicking won't make it rain, he stated simply, his thick roots vibrating slightly. We need to understand why the water stopped flowing. Did the tap break? Is there a blockage? Or did the source simply disappear? Clara, perched near the surface, used her advantage. Shed. The eyes, the ability to look up and see the world above the soil. The others were too focused on the immediate suffering in the ground. Barry, the beet, focused on the deep roots, trying to detect subtle changes in the soil pressure and vibration. He noticed something strange. The deepest channels. The ones that usually carried the bulk of the water weren't just dry, they seemed clogged, not with soil, but with something else. Something fibrous and sticky. Clara reported back her findings from above. She saw the gardener wasn't around, which meant the tap wasn't manually turned off. But she did notice a huge mound of fresh, thick mulch piled near the main water hose mulch that had been left haphazardly. Connecting the dots was tough, especially when every minute felt like an hour of dehydration. Silas, the sweet potato, put it together. He reasoned that a combination of factors must be at play. The recent heat wave had caused the upper layers of soil to crack slightly. When the gardener dumped that huge pile of fresh mulch to fibrous material, Barry sensed it had slumped into those cracks, drying quickly and forming a near-impenetrable dam right at the point where the main irrigation feed entered the ground. The water was trying to flow, but it couldn't penetrate the barricade. This wasn't a punishment from the sky or a broken tap. It was an accidental, human-made obstacle. The small group now faced a new problem. How do a sweet potato, a beet, a tay, and a cherry tomato tell the busy, unaware human gardener that they need to remove a pile of mulch? They couldn't shout, and their roots certainly couldn't move it. This is where teamwork truly shone. They realized their biggest asset wasn't strength, but visibility. The tomatoes, led by Clara, still had the ability to droop dramatically and visibly fade faster than any other plant. Silas coordinated the signal. Every plant near the barrier, the lettuce, the spinach, and the tomatoes had to look completely, desperately wilted, focused entirely on the area directly above the mulch pile. It had to be a silent, unanimous cry for help directed at one specific spot. It took hours, but the collective wilting worked. The gardener, returning in the late afternoon, walked straight past the noisy cabbages and the complaining peppers. But they stopped abruptly at the sight of the wilted, dying lettuce and the collapsing tomato vinesel, focused on that single pile of fresh mulch. The gardener's eyes widened in realization. They quickly noticed the dry, crusty barrier the mulch had formed. With a shovel, they cleared the pile, opened the main feed, and the water rushed back in. A glorious, muddy flood of life. The garden drank deeply, sighing in relief. The recovery took time, but they survived. The moral of their story wasn't just about water. It was about the power of looking past the panic, investigating the symptoms, and coordinating a smart solution. While the rest of the garden was busy complaining about the problem, Silas, Clara, and Barry were busy finding the answer. It's a great reminder that when crisis hits, the first step should always be observation, not accusation. What do you guys think? Have you ever dealt with a garden crisis that turned out to be something simple? Let me know in the comments below.